These suits don't fit. And if you own a suit, there's a good chance that yours doesn't either. You could have a collar gap, shoulders breaking down, a jacket out of balance, the wrong trouser rise, and lots more issues that the average person never even thinks about. I'm Ian Meiers, owner of the UK's largest bespoke tailor, and I'm about to show you the most common suit problems, what causes them, and how to fix them. Let's start with the jacket. Shoulders breaking down. Here you see diagonal lines, creases across the upper back of the shoulder. If you have diagonal lines like these, that's because the jacket hasn't been cut to your shoulder shape. Ideally, you should have a clear back with no creasing on it at all. While some people have perfectly balanced and symmetrical shoulders, the vast majority of us don't. Over 50% of people will have what a tailor calls a drop right shoulder, which means their right shoulder is lower than their left. This is because most people are right-handed, and over time, the extra burden and strain will cause the right shoulder to come and sit lower. If both shoulders are dropped, you have what we call slope shoulders. So a jacket's shoulders are cut for the average person, which means the jacket would have a slight slope to it. But if you have a shoulder that's lower on one side or the other, it means that the jacket will actually break down because it's designed to sit up here, but it's sitting on shoulders that sit slightly lower. To fix this, the angle of the shoulders needs to be lowered and the armhole needs to be brought down with it to fit to the body correctly. A good tailor will actually go a step beyond that. They won't just be looking at the angle of the shoulders at the ends, they'll be looking at the top of the shoulders, which is what we call the neck point. Sometimes people have one neck point that is lower than the other. What you'll find in this case is the whole panel of the jacket will follow the neck point and the whole jacket will sit a little lower on one side than the other. When this happens, you'll find that the button isn't aligned to the buttonhole. So when you do the two up, it will throw one of the lapels off because you're moving the lapel up and it will cause it to bow on one side. The best way to fix it is to actually pick up the cloth and move it into the neck point at the top. This will realign the button and the buttonhole, meaning that the jacket at the bottom sits cleanly, but also both lapels will sit cleanly to the chest. Collar roll. Here we see a rucking, a creasing across the top of the shoulders underneath the collar. The opposite of slope shoulders is what we call square shoulders. This is where the shoulders are high on both sides compared to the average person. If you have square shoulders, it lifts the jacket at either end and causes a rocking and tension underneath the collar. Again, in an ideal world, the back of the jacket should be clean with minimal to no creasing. To fix it, you need to see a tailor who will take the cloth and pass it up into the collar to give a clean finish to the back of the jacket. Popping around the chest. Here you can see the jacket lapels bowing and lifting off of the chest. This is typically caused by a jacket being too small in this area, and what you need is a jacket with more room across here that will sit over the front of the edge and stop the lapels from lifting. Another issue that will cause the lapels to bow is what we call a prominent chest. When you have a prominent chest, it's lifting the jacket and it's opening it here, causing a pressure, an upward pressure on the jacket, which causes the lapels to bow. Ideally, the chest should hug the body without being too tight or too loose to maximize the shape through the body. The chest area is one of the most difficult parts of the suit to alter because there's no inlay, there's no cloth there to let out. Because of this, it's essential you get the chest to fit correctly when you buy a suit. I recommend buying the jacket based on the fit of the chest, and then having a tailor take in the waist to get the shape that you want. Collar gap. What we're seeing here is a space between the neck and the collar. In a well-fitting jacket, the collar will always sit and rest on the neck. A collar gap will often appear because of a person's posture. For some people, their head sits forward, and that creates a gap between the neck and the collar. A more extreme version of this is what we call a round back. But before we jump into that, let's talk about balance. A well-fitting jacket will always be in balance. And this means that the bottom of the jackets hang parallel with the floor, the fronts of the jacket gently open at the quarters, which is the bottom of the jacket, and the back of the jacket will sit cleanly. Your posture will have a significant impact on the balance of your jacket. Some people have a round back, and that will cause the entire jacket to move. It will cause the fronts to go lower and the back of the jacket to kick up. The fronts of the jacket start to kick open, like a pair of scissors situated from the button down, and the back of the jacket will start to pull at the top, which causes a wavering at the bottom of the jacket. If you have an erect posture, the exact opposite happens, where the fronts of the jacket will start to lift up and the fronts will close like a pair of scissors. To fix these issues, lots of people will start looking at the bottom of the jacket and try to treat it locally, but the root cause of it is at the top of the jacket and it has to be fixed from here. For a round back, you have to give what a tailor would call extra back balance. That means more length over the back of the jacket, and then you have to pick up and straighten the fronts. For an erect posture, you have to do the opposite. You have to reduce the back balance, which means shorten the back panel at the top and put extra length over the front. When someone has a head forward, this is a more minor version of a round back, where we put extra through the back and then we'll nip and take in the collar, but you typically won't adjust the fronts. If you have one of these issues and you want your jacket to fit, you need to be aware that ready-to-wear might not be the right option for you. The cost of altering a ready-to-wear suit will be substantial and in many cases not even possible. You may be better making the investment and seeing a good tailor who can take care of this for you. Wrong sleeve length. On this jacket, we can see that the sleeves are far too short. The correct sleeve length is a super important detail that people will notice even if they don't know what they're looking for. Cut them too short and you'll have your shirt cuff flying out the end of the sleeve. However, if you cut them too long, it will start swallowing up the hand. The correct sleeve length should come down to the back of the wrist, but allow 1/4 to 1/2 inch of shirt cuff to show. The shirt showing offers a little peacocking while showing that your jacket and shirts have been perfectly tailored. To get the shirt sleeve length to sit correctly, it's not just the shirt length that's important, it's also the size of the cuff. If the cuff's too big, it's going to sit down the back of the hand, and if it's too small, it's going to sit too high up. You need it sitting with the correct width, which is about 2.5 inches bigger than the wrist. Armhole, too low. Here we're looking at the height of the armhole, which refers to the amount of space between the body and the jacket armhole. The height of the armhole is absolutely crucial in a suit for both movement and shape. You'll often see that ready-to-wear garments have low armholes. This is because it offers more room and more comfort and will fit more people. However, it creates a wing of fabric underneath the jacket, so when the arm's lifted up, the entire jacket moves with it, so you actually get less movement and less comfort with it. It also shortens the run from the bottom of the armhole down to the waist, which greatly reduces the shape of the jacket. This is a crucial area of the jacket where we want to maximize the run from the armhole down to the waist to create a masculine silhouette from broad shoulders down to a slender waist. The ideal armhole height depends on the person and depends on how the tailor likes to cut it, but in general it's just over 1 inch of space that's needed there. Back of the sleeves breaking down. Here we see a bunch of creases sitting at the back of the sleeve. You've probably never needed to think about how someone's arms hang, but a good tailor will be looking for this. If you look at the average person, the front of their sleeve would typically hang around the middle of the pocket. But some people's arms will naturally hang further forwards or further backwards. When someone's arm hangs backwards, it's pushing against the back of the sleeve, which creates a tension and a creasing. To fix it, the whole of the sleeve needs to be rotated backwards. When you do this, the sleeve then hangs in unison with the person's arm and the sleeve hangs cleanly. Creasing on the waist. Here we see horizontal lines and creases across the front of the jacket. This means that the area around the waist is too tight. On the other hand, if the area around the waist is too big, the jacket begins to look boxy. A well-fitted jacket would have the waist sitting just on the body without pulling or catching. We want to give the appearance of a broad shoulders going down to a slender waist. Lots of people come into my tailoring store asking to look like James Bond, and this, the waisting on the jacket, is one of the key elements for us to deliver that. Some people have a physique that makes it easy for us to build shape in a jacket, but a good tailor will be able to create shape for anyone. The seat showing. The seat is another way of saying someone's rear end, and what we're seeing here is too much of it. In this case, the suit jacket has been cut too short. When this happens, on the front you can also see the customer's crotch. And if you think the seat showing's bad, I can promise you showing the crotch is even worse. On the other hand, if you cut the jacket too long, it's going to swallow the legs up and make the body look too long. The length of the jacket is crucial for getting the proportions of the jacket right. There are lots of loose rules that people will follow to determine the length of the jacket, whether it's cupping your hands or going to your thumb or being halfway from the shoulder point down to the floor, but there's nothing better than standing back and looking at how that jacket sits on that individual. This is one where there's no steadfast rule and it really depends on personal preferences. Now, let's move on to the trousers. Low cut trousers. Here we're seeing the waist of the trousers sitting low on the hips. The height of the trouser can really impact the level of formality and how well it flatters a person's body. The area between the trouser waistband and the crotch is known as the rise. When the rise is cut too low, it makes the customer's leg look shorter and doesn't pair well with a jacket. A low rise works better on things like jeans that are intentionally casual and typically not paired with the jacket. More often than not, we recommend going with a higher waisted trouser. A higher waisted trouser gives the illusion of a longer leg and a shorter body, which looks more elegant. Now, I'm not suggesting that you dress like Simon Cowell with the trousers up to your chest, but having the trouser waistband sit at the hip bone tends to work well for most people. It also creates a seamless silhouette with the jacket and also gives you room to tuck in your shirt, which is what you'll want to do with a suit or formal trousers. There is no real fix for this. You can't make the trouser rise higher, so you need to go to a company that cuts them a little higher in the first place. Gaping pockets. Here we see the pockets bowing, gaping at the side of the trousers. The biggest cause of this is the trousers being too tight around the seat, or that the trouser cut doesn't work for your body shape. When the trousers are too tight, the cloth around the seat pulls and causes the pockets to bow open. You'll typically see lines or creases across the front and the back of the trousers, which is a telltale sign that the trousers are too tight. A trouser should sit clean across the front and the back without any pulling, which will allow the pockets to sit cleanly through the sides. To fix this, you could let the trousers out at the side seam or the back if the trousers have some inlay in there. This will create more room in the trouser, which will stop it from pulling and allow the pockets and the rest of the trouser to sit cleanly. Otherwise, the other option is to buy a bigger size trouser and then take the waist down. Bunching up at the bottom of the legs. Here we can see an excess of cloth sitting on top of the shoe. This is due to the trousers being too long. On the other hand, if the trousers are cut too short, they can start riding up while you're walking. Trouser length is very much a personal preference, but a classic length would be to have a single break on the front, which means a small fold on the front, and straight on the back. This makes the trouser look clean and avoids excess cloth catching and breaking at the shoe. You can achieve this look by cutting what we call a military hem, where the front of the trouser is a little bit shorter than the back. Alternatively, a lot of people will cut their trousers purposely shorter to give a cleaner look, but ultimately it comes down to personal preference. Back of trousers breaking down. What we see here are folds and creases at the back of the thigh. This is due to what us tailors call a flat seat. This is where someone has a small and low seat, causing the back of the trousers to break down. Ideally, you want a clean run from the seat down to the knee and the bottom of the trouser. This area is important because if you're not wearing your jacket, people are going to see the back of your trousers and they're going to see the silhouette of your trousers isn't hanging properly. This is quite a big job to fix because you have to open up the back of the waistband. You have to push the cloth up into the waistband, and often that will cause the trouser to ride up into the customer's seat. So you also have to open up what we call the fork, which is the top of the thigh, and give more room through there, and that will get you a clean shape through the trouser. Finally, let's break down the dress shirt. Collar fits, the shirt doesn't. Although the collar fits the neck well, the rest of the shirt doesn't fit the body. Traditionally, when you buy a shirt off the rack, you're basing the purchase on the size of the collar. As it's assumed, as the neck gets bigger, the body will get bigger with it. However, what fits your neck might not fit your body. For example, I have a colleague that's far shorter than me, but has a bigger neck than me. Technically, he'd be buying a shirt off the rack that is bigger than one that I'd wear. Ideally, you want a shirt that fits the collar, the body, and your sleeve length. So when buying a ready-to-wear shirt, it's a balance to get those 3 points right. If you're planning to wear a tie with your shirt, which means you're going to do the collar up, I'd recommend buying the shirt based on the collar size and sleeve length, and then having a tailor adjust the body to fit your shape. But if you're not planning on doing the collar up, you have more flexibility to buy a shirt that fits the body correctly. Overly fitted shirt. Here we're seeing pulling or creasing across the front of the shirt and the buttons being strained. This happens when the shirt is too small and glued to the body. Because the shirt is either the same size as the body or in some instances even smaller than the body is pushing open the shirt, which causes the creases and the tension across the front. Ideally, you need a little space through the chest, as this will allow the shirt to hang cleanly without any pulling. If you're having an issue with this, my recommendation is to buy a shirt with a bigger chest size and have a tailor bring the waist in. It's also important to understand the principle of grading. This is where a tailor will take a medium size and calculate the proportions for the bigger and smaller sizes from it. The reason it's useful to understand grading, that as the collar size gets bigger, the body, the armhole, the sleeve length, and the shirt length all get bigger with it. My advice is that when buying a shirt, you find a balance between all these things. Shoulder seams too wide. Here we can see the shoulder seam, which is where the sleeve and the body meet, sitting off the edge of the person's shoulder. When this happens, the shirt starts to look sloppy, like it doesn't fit you. This is due to the shoulder width of the shirt not matching your frame. Ideally, you want the shoulder seam to sit perfectly at the edge of the shoulder. When it does this, it shows that the shirt fits and it gives a much cleaner aesthetic. To fix this, it would take the tailor a long time to alter it, and it's going to be expensive, so you're better off buying the shirt correct in the first place. Suits are a very personal thing, and what works for one person might not work for another. However, as long as you know what you're looking out for, a great looking suit can certainly be within reach.